The orbit of New Avalon had once glittered with traffic lanes and bright station lights. Now it drifted in a dim, motionless haze, an unbroken field of ash and twisted metal. Commander Elias Hale stood at the bridge viewport of the Resolute, jaw locked, hands braced against the rail as fragments of a city he once knew passed by like ghosts. The glass reflected exhausted eyes, ringed with sleepless hours. Every drifting hull plate felt like a wound. Recovery Teams 3 and 7 are returning with another batch of survivors, his operations officer reported, voice tight. Most are in critical condition. Get them straight to Med Bay, Elias replied quietly. No delays. The officer nodded, already routing orders, but the young man's eyes lingered on the viewport as if searching for signs of life in the debris field. Elias knew the look. Everyone on the ship carried the same silent question: how could this happen here? Elias activated his wrist console. Drone Wing Delta, Scan Grid B7. Anything that looks like a shelter or sealed chamber gets priority. He paused. And be gentle. There may still be people trapped in the rubble. A chorus of drones acknowledged the order and spread outward, weaving between splintered towers that floated like monuments to the world's final hour. New Avalon had been a thriving colony, families, schools, shipyards, green plains stretching beneath transparent domes. Elias had grown up on its neighbor moon but visited often enough to know the rhythm of its markets, the smell of its forests. Now, those memories clashed violently with the burned remains beneath him. A sensor alert pulsed. Lieutenant Varick straightened. Sir, we're detecting concentrated alloy clusters in Sector E3. They look deliberate. Elias moved beside him. On the display, highlighted fragments glowed faintly, pieces that hadn't erupted outward in random chaos. They'd been cut, cleanly, by directed energy. Magnify. The view zoomed in on a shard of scorched plating. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Run a spectrum analysis. Varick's fingers flew across the panel. Reading residual signatures. Sir, these frequencies. I know, Elias said. Match them to Council records. The system hesitated for half a second before identifying the pattern. Dominion Pulse Lance emission, Varick whispered. Silence spread across the bridge like falling dust. Elias inhaled slowly. Save everything. Raw readings. Drone footage. Timestamps. He straightened, forcing control into his voice. We'll send it all to the Terran embassy. Varick glanced at him. Do you believe the Dominion would actually? I believe what I see, Elias said. Speculation won't help us. Proof will. A tremor of anger pulsed beneath his calm tone, but he tamped it down. Rage would not clear the rubble or revive the dying. A calm ping sounded at his wrist. The display unfolded into a shimmering holofeed, revealing Ambassador Leora Hale, his older sister. Her expression softened when she saw him, though the shadows under her eyes matched his. You're hurt, she murmured before catching herself. Elias, what's happening out there? The Council's reports are vague. He turned so she could see the ruins through the viewport. The floating wreck of a once busy shuttle drifted past, windows shattered, interior charred. Her breath caught. I had hoped the briefings exaggerated. They didn't, Elias said. And what we're finding is worse. Leora leaned closer to the feed. Show me. He transferred the alloy scan to her console. As the Dominion signature pulsed on her screen, a stark stillness overtook her features. Elias, if this is accurate. It is, he replied quietly. You know my team. We don't misread something like this. Leora closed her eyes for a moment, not in disbelief but in calculation. When she opened them, steel had replaced hesitation. The Council just refused to open a formal inquiry. They claim insufficient evidence. Convenient, Elias said. Too convenient. A flicker of pain crossed her expression. I'll challenge it, but they're resisting everything we present. They think we're emotional. Unstable. Too new to the Council to demand accountability. The bitterness in her voice startled him. Leora rarely let frustration bleed through. You'll make them listen. Elias said. You always have. She offered a thin smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'll try. For your sake, for everyone's. The hologram shimmered as she prepared to end the transmission. Liara, he said quietly. She paused. Whatever happens in that chamber, don't let them turn this into politics. People died here. Real families. Real homes. I know, she whispered. And I won't let them bury the truth. The feed dissolved. Elias exhaled, steadying himself. He had no illusions about the struggle ahead for her. Diplomacy in the council chamber was a war of its own, fought with smiles and veiled daggers. Sir! Varric called suddenly. Drone 7 found survivors. Elias strode to the central screen. Inside a partially collapsed biodome, faint movement showed through tangled beams. Rescue teams were already maneuvering. Get the medical staff ready, Elias said. Prep the trauma bays. As the drones cut through debris, small shapes emerged, 2 children clinging to each other, covered in ash. The youngest blinked against the bright rescue lights, eyes dazed. When the rescue team lifted them out, the older child whispered something too soft to catch. Varric listened to the calm feed. His throat tightened. He said, we waited. We didn't think anyone was coming. Elias turned away from the screen, jaw tense. He took a long, steadying breath before issuing his next commands. Expand the search radius. Prioritize biodomes and sealed structures. And keep recording everything. Every detail. He walked back to the viewport. More debris drifted past, a shattered school dome, a burned garden module, a transport lane twisted into abstract shapes. The scale of loss pressed against him like gravity. This wasn't random destruction. It was deliberate, surgical, intended to cripple a world. He reached for his wrist console, opened a secured channel, and began speaking into the recorder. This is Commander Elias Hale. I'm transmitting classified findings from New Avalon. The weapon signatures match Dominion Pulse Lance emissions with a confidence rate of 98%. The attack pattern suggests targeted suppression of escape routes and infrastructure. This was a coordinated strike. He paused, glancing at the burned horizon drifting outside. I don't know how many more survivors we'll find. But we'll keep searching. Liora, when you receive this, make them hear you. They can't ignore what happened here. He ended the recording. Outside, the remains of New Avalon turned slowly in the quiet void, a broken world waiting for justice. The Galactic Council citadel loomed like a dark crown around its blue dwarf star, its spires rising in elegant curves that seemed to defy mass and geometry. Ambassador Liora Hale stepped off the shuttle into the receiving hall, the cool air carrying the faint metallic scent of ancient alloys. The vast chamber buzzed with murmurs, delegates from 100 species glancing her way with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and thinly veiled suspicion. 2 attendants approached, their silver uniforms pristine. Ambassador Hale. The taller one greeted, bowing stiffly. The council session begins in 30 minutes. Your presence is expected. Liora offered a polite nod, though their strained expressions confirmed what she already sensed: she was not welcome. As she moved through the corridor, she caught fragments of whispered conversation, a pair of avian diplomats muttering that humanity was making noise again, a crystalline envoy remarking that humans misunderstood the nature of tragedy. Liara kept her gaze forward. Their dismissiveness only sharpened her resolve. Her personal aide, Mara, hurried to match her stride. Your briefing files were altered when we left orbit, she said quietly. Someone accessed your secure data. Of course they did, Liara murmured. Check every document. If anything is missing, replace it with an encrypted duplicate. Yes, Ambassador. The doors of the council chamber slid open, revealing a circular amphitheater carved from pale stone veined with luminescent patterns. Delegates filled tiered seats, their voices falling to faint echoes as Liora descended to the speaking platform at the center. Above, a majestic holodisplay projected a spinning map of council territories. At the far end, seated on a raised dais, was High Regent Zarthal Varuin, the Dominion's supreme representative. His obsidian skin glinted under the chamber lights. His eyes, vertical slits of molten gold, tracked Leora with the calm interest of a predator watching a newcomer step into its den. The Chancellor called the session to order. Ambassador Hale, you requested the floor. Present your claim. Leora stood straight, chin steady. A Terran colony, New Avalon, was wiped out by an unknown force. My people request a formal council investigation. A ripple of polite murmurs spread through the chamber. Zarthal tapped a claw lightly against his console. And what evidence? He asked coolly. Supports the accusation that this matter concerns the council at all? Colonies suffer accidents. Faulty reactors, unregulated mining, humans, in particular, are prone to carelessness. Leora ignored the provocation. She projected a hollow feed above the platform, debris scans, spectral signatures, timestamps. The Dominion pulse lance emission pattern pulsed across the display. This alloy structure, she said, was cut by a directed weapon. The beam pattern matches documented Dominion pulse lance emissions. Zarthal inclined his head with theatrical patience. Coincidence? Those signatures are centuries old. Many species adapted obsolete Dominion technologies at one time or another. Your claim is based on similarity, not proof. Leora switched to a deeper analysis. Geometric breakdowns, microfracture patterns, precision angles that bespoke disciplined targeting. These are not outdated models. They match current Dominion armament. The Virac regent allowed his lips to curl in a faint smile. Humans often misinterpret complexity as hostility. You seek blame where there is only misfortune. A few delegates chuckled softly. The Chancellor shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to challenge a founding member of the Council. Leora met Zarthal's gaze without blinking. If the Dominion has nothing to hide, then support an open investigation. He spread his hands, an elegant gesture. To indulge unfounded suspicion is to reward chaos. No. The refusal reverberated through the chamber. Leora lowered the display, realizing the weight of the Council's silence. Many representatives avoided her eyes. A few looked sympathetic but hesitant. Most looked relieved that Zarthal had spoken first. The Chancellor concluded the session with stale words about the need for harmony and insufficient evidence. Leora walked out, heartbeat steady despite the disappointment twisting inside her. She hadn't expected victory today, but she had hoped for something other than indifference. Mara approached once the corridor emptied. They already circulated comments through private channels. They're calling your presentation emotional. Leora exhaled quietly. I expected that. Let's return to my quarters. I need time to plan. The Citadel's residential wing was quieter, dimly lit by lines of soft blue light. Her suite door recognized her biometric signature and slid open. The moment she stepped inside, she sensed it, an imperceptible shift in air pressure, faint disturbances on the console surfaces. Mara, she said softly. Freeze! Her aide stopped instantly. Leora scanned the room visually. A datapad was slightly out of alignment. One of her cases sat open a few centimeters wider than before. Someone had been here. She approached the console and activated a manual diagnostic. The system flashed an alert, unauthorized access 3 hours earlier. Files copied. Encryption bypassed. Mara whispered, Should I call security? And give them a reason to confiscate the logs? Leora shook her head. No. Document everything. Then mirror the data to an offline drive. Mara began recording. A soft metallic scrape echoed from the adjoining chamber. Leora's pulse quickened. Behind me, she ordered. The lights flickered. A silhouette glinted near the ceiling, a sleek, arachnid-shaped device clinging to the support beam. Its limbs unfolded in fluid silence, each tipped with a thin cutting arc. Mara gasped. Leora grabbed her wrist and yanked her aside as the machine dropped, slicing through the air where they stood a heartbeat earlier. The impact left a shallow scorch across the floor. It's a Dominion infiltrator model, Mara whispered. I know, Leora said through clenched teeth. She reached for the emergency panel, slamming her palm onto it. A burst of containment energy flared, momentarily stunning the machine. It twitched, recalibrating. The door opened behind them, and Zarthal stood there as if summoned by her suspicion. He regarded the scene with detached interest. "Your quarters seem disorderly, Ambassador." Leora stepped between him and the infiltrator, refusing to show fear. "Someone attempted to kill me. An unfortunate malfunction, I'm sure," he said smoothly. "The Citadel is old. Systems fail." Her eyes narrowed. "That device wasn't built by the Citadel." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a silken whisper. "You're far from home, Ambassador. Accidents happen. Perhaps you should withdraw your claims before more misfortunes occur." Mara stiffened. Leora simply stared at him, the tension of the room coiling around her like wire. "I won't be intimidated," she said. Zarthal's golden eyes hardened for a fraction of a second, then he smiled, bowed, and walked away as if the matter were trivial. When he was gone, Mara whispered, "What now?" Leora exhaled slowly, her fear crystallizing into resolve. "No," she said. "We fight back, with truth they can't bury." The alarm in Leora's quarters had been silenced, the infiltrator drone removed by neutral technicians who treated the attack as an equipment malfunction. Their indifference only deepened her conviction that someone within the Citadel wanted her isolated and powerless. Senator HFY found her in a quiet observation hall overlooking the star at the Citadel's center. The reptilian statesman moved with slow, deliberate steps, his scaled cloak rustling softly. He studied her tense posture before speaking. "You've drawn dangerous eyes, Ambassador Hale." Leora kept her gaze fixed on the blue dwarf's corona. "The Council refuses to see what's obvious. And the Dominion wants me silent." HFY joined her at the railing, his voice low. "The Dominion silences those who threaten their designs. You survived that drone. Many before you did not." She turned, surprised by his candor. "Why tell me this?" "Because I fought the Dominion 3 centuries ago," he said. "I know their methods. They hide their claws until the moment they strike." Leora hesitated. HFY had no reason to help her, yet his sincerity was unmistakable. "I have reason to believe," he continued, "that the answers you seek lie in the restricted archive, records older than the Council itself." Leora straightened. "That archive is sealed to all but senior founders." HFY's pupils narrowed. "I can grant temporary access. What you choose to uncover is your burden." She exhaled, decision settling into her bones. "Show me the way." The restricted archive lay deep beneath the Citadel's core, guarded by layered biometric seals and silent sentinels carved from glossy obsidian. When the final lock disengaged, a cold gust escaped the doorway, carrying the scent of old circuitry and dust. Rows of crystalline data pillars filled the chamber. Their cores pulsed faintly, as if breathing. HFY activated a console. "Search parameters? Historical Dominion military activity," Leora said. "Anything resembling the attack on New Avalon." The console hummed, light filtering through the files like rays through deep water. A hollow projection ignited in the air, grainy, ancient footage of a small planet shattered by targeted orbital strikes. Weapon patterns traced across the display. Leora's stomach tightened. The geometry of destruction mirrored New Avalon's. "These files," HFY said quietly, "record an assault on a rising species in Cycle 901. The Dominion erased them from public history." Another file opened, a record of an independent colony wiped out during a diplomatic dispute. Again, the same precise attack pattern. "How many worlds?" Leora asked. "Too many," HFY replied. "And every time, the Dominion claimed ignorance." Leora stepped deeper into the projections, eyes scanning timestamps, logs, intercepted Dominion messages. Their arrogance was blatant, communications revealing covert operations, infiltration networks, and carefully orchestrated destabilization campaigns. One message chilled her. "Emerging powers must be checked before they claim their place," she whispered. They've been doing this for centuries. We're just the newest target. THRYNN's expression darkened. The Council is reluctant to accuse a founding member. That reluctance has cost lives. Leora copied the files to a secure drive. They won't ignore this. Before THRYNN could respond, Leora's wrist console vibrated sharply, an encrypted signal from Elias' vessel. Her heart lurched. She opened the feed. Elias' face flickered, shrouded in smoke, alarms blaring behind him. Leora, Raider Fleet, ambush, Dominion command codes. The transmission crackled, breaking into fragments. Elias! She called. Slow down. What's happening? His features sharpened as the feed stabilized for a moment. We engaged raiders near the outer ring. Their targeting algorithms, Leora, they matched Dominion templates exactly. Someone guided them. A blast shook his ship, the screen jarring violently. Elias gripped the console, breath ragged. We can't break through. Tell them the truth. Don't let them twist this. Don't. The feed dissolved into static. Leora stared at the dead screen, numbness spreading through her chest. THRYNN stepped forward. Ambassador? She swallowed hard. His fleet was lured into a trap. Do you have his coordinates? Yes, before the signal cut. THRYNN placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Send a rescue request immediately. I'll have my fleet patrol the surrounding sectors. For a moment, Leora couldn't speak. Her brother's voice still echoed in her mind, threaded with urgency and fear. She closed her eyes, drawing a steadying breath. He told me to make them listen. And you will, THRYNN said. Back in her quarters, Leora uploaded the archived data, reviewing each file with meticulous care. Images of shattered worlds, intercepted Dominion orders, and recordings of victims scrolled across her console. A hollow ache settled behind her ribs, but beneath it, something stronger formed. A center of gravity. A conviction that no threat, no intimidation, could dislodge. Mara entered quietly. Ambassador. News from intelligence. They've confirmed the Dominion has mobilized several scout fleets. Their flight paths are classified. Of course they are. Leora murmured. They want to bury the trail. Mara hesitated. What about your brother? I've sent rescue teams, Leora said. THRYNN has offered support. Until we receive confirmation, we assume he's alive. Mara nodded slowly. And the Council? Leora straightened. They've ignored every warning. So we'll give them something they can't dismiss. She loaded the compiled evidence onto a central drive, Elias transmission, weapon analyses, forbidden archive files. Everything aligned into a single devastating narrative. Mara looked at her with quiet admiration. You're preparing for a formal challenge. Yes, Leora said. One they can't bury in procedure. She took a slow breath. The memory of Elias' strained voice steadied her resolve. A chime sounded at her door. A courier drone hovered outside, carrying a sealed council notification. Leora broke the seal. An emergency session has been approved. They gave us a slot at first light. Mara's eyes widened. Someone pushed that through? Or someone thinks they can humiliate us publicly? Leora said. Either way we go. She stared out the window at the star burning in the distance, its light flickering across the citadel's metallic spine. Prepare my case, she said. Tomorrow we expose them. As Mara hurried off, Leora placed a hand over the drive containing the evidence, its weight both literal and symbolic. The truths she carried could break the Dominion's facade, reshape alliances, and ignite conflict on a scale the Council feared. But silence would cost far more. Elias' last words echoed in her mind, "Don't let them twist this." "I won't," she whispered into the quiet room. Then she turned toward the coming battle, not one waged with weapons, but with truth sharp enough to cut through centuries of lies. Dawn inside the citadel was an illusion, an engineered shift in lighting that painted the vast council chamber in faint gold. Delegates filed into their seats with stiff formality, the room vibrating with quiet anticipation. Rumors had spread overnight. The Terran ambassador intended to challenge the Dominion openly. Leora Hale stood at the center platform, hands clasped behind her back, her expression composed but sharpened by purpose. The evidence drive rested on the console before her. The files burned in her thoughts, archived atrocities, Elias' last transmission, and the unmistakable Dominion weapon analysis. High Regent Zarthal arrived with theatrical poise, settling into his gilded seat as if presiding over a ceremony already decided. His golden eyes lingered on Leora with a faint smirk, confident she would fail. The Chancellor raised a hand. "Ambassador Hale, the Council grants you the floor." Leora activated the holo display. "Representatives, thank you for convening. I stand here as a voice for the people of New Avalon, now a ruined colony." A few diplomats shifted uncomfortably at the rawness in her tone. She continued, "I will present evidence that the colony was destroyed through coordinated orbital strikes. Not an accident. Not a malfunction. A deliberate attack." Zarthal's claws drummed softly on his console, but he remained silent. Leora projected the first recording, spectral analysis of debris, fracture patterns, angle of impact data. She spoke with clarity born from sleepless nights and unwavering determination. "These patterns match a pulse lance configuration used in modern Dominion fleets." She displayed overlays showing near-perfect alignment. A delegate from the Okan Collective frowned. "Ambassador, similarity is not confirmation. Many systems utilize." Leora cut in gently but firmly. "I anticipated that argument." She switched to Elias' transmission. The chamber filled with the sound of alarms, his voice strained by fire and chaos. "Their targeting algorithms match Dominion templates, guided, ambush." The feed fractured just as the explosion hit his ship. A murmur rippled across the tiers. Shock. Doubt. Unease. The Dominion delegation stiffened. Zarthal rose slowly. "This is emotional manipulation. An unfortunate military skirmish does not implicate the Dominion. Your people interpret tragedy as conspiracy." Leora stared at him, the silence growing taut. Then she placed the forbidden archive files into view. Ancient footage appeared overhead, world after world struck with the same precise patterns. Intercepted Dominion orders. Logs detailing covert operations. Messages discussing the need to curb emerging civilizations. The room stilled. Several diplomats exchanged alarmed glances, recognizing the scale of the deception. Zarthal's calm cracked. "These records are fabricated. Humans meddle with data." "They're not fabricated," Leora said quietly. "They're preserved by the oldest council systems. You failed to erase them completely." He bared his teeth. "The council will not tolerate accusations from an upstart species." Leora stepped forward, voice steady. "I haven't finished." Zarthal froze, caught off guard by her unwavering tone. She took in the chamber, the amphitheater that had ignored her, dismissed humanity, belittled her grief. Her gaze drifted briefly to the place where Elias' image had flickered hours before. Then she spoke words that shifted the room's gravity. "You attacked our home?" The chamber fell silent. It wasn't the volume of her voice. It was the weight of it, the human truth behind it. For many species, home was a concept tied to territory or clan. For humans, it was deeper, woven with history, memory, identity. The word vibrated with meaning no translation could soften. Leora continued, voice low but unbreakable. "You didn't strike a military depot. You didn't disable a rogue outpost. You destroyed a world filled with civilians, families, children, communities that had never raised a weapon against you. You thought we would bow. That we'd stay quiet. That no one would trace your shadows." Her gaze locked on Zarthal. "You miscalculated." The Virak regent surged to his feet, composure shattering. "Humans are unstable. You twist sentiment into accusation. The Dominion maintains order." "Order?" Leora echoed. "Is that what you call centuries of secret interventions? Entire species wiped out because they progressed faster than you liked?" The holodisplay shifted again, this time without her input. A new stream of data flooded the chamber, projected from an external source. Dominion command signatures. Encrypted messages. Deployment orders for Black Ops fleets. The seal in the corner identified the source, Terran Intelligence Network. Gasps erupted across the tiers. Zarthal spun toward the projection, eyes blazing. "Shut that down!" The Chancellor stared at him, aghast. "High Regent, these logs contain your authorization codes." Delegates rose, shouting over one another. Some demanded explanations. Others called for sanctions. A few backed away from the Dominion row entirely. Zarthal slammed a clawed hand on his console. "You would trust a species that barely understands council law? Humans are dangerous. Their expansion threatens stability." Leora stepped closer, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The only danger here is a power that believes it can erase anyone who challenges it." Security forces entered the chamber. Their armored boots echoed through the uproar. The Chancellor pointed toward Zarthal. "High Regent, you are ordered to stand down pending a full investigation." Zarthal recoiled, fury twisting his features. "You fools! Humanity will corrupt everything you've built. They will bring chaos to your gates." "Chaos," Leora said softly, "came from you." At that, the Regent lunged, not at her, but toward the exit. Security officers intercepted him, their restraints locking in place as he struggled and roared. The Dominion delegates erupted in protest before storming out, their banners tearing from their stands. The chamber slowly calmed, though the air remained charged with aftershocks of revelation. Leora released a long breath, her hands trembling as the adrenaline faded. The Chancellor approached her with measured steps. "Ambassador Hale," he said, voice hushed, "your evidence has altered the Council's understanding of this crisis. A full inquiry is already in motion." Leora nodded, though her thoughts drifted to the debris field, to the survivors found beneath shattered domes, to Elias' unfinished message. As she turned from the platform, her wrist console vibrated softly. A priority signal. Mara appeared on the screen, tears glistening. "Ambassador, we found him." Leora's breath hitched. "Alive?" "Yes." "Injured but alive?" "A rescue team recovered him near the border drift." Emotion surged through her, relief so sharp it nearly buckled her knees. "Route me to medbay," she whispered. Hours later, Leora stood beside Elias' stasis chamber. His face was bruised, pale, but alive. Machines hummed softly around him. She placed her hand on the glass. "You told me to make them hear us," she murmured. They heard. His eyelids fluttered briefly, as though sensing her presence. Outside the medbay window, Council fleets repositioned. Alliances shifted. Lines redrawn. Humanity had stepped into the center of the galaxy, not by seeking power, but by refusing silence. Leora straightened, resolve intact. This was only the beginning. "They thought we were fragile," she whispered. "They were wrong."